Hello everybody, this is the iFind channel here. Over here is the HTC One. It has been 12 years since this phone was released back in early 2013, and why not? Let's do a throwback review, shall we? Now, this phone was first released on MWC 2013 and was officially released to the public on the 22nd of March in 2013. Now, this phone rivaled with the Galaxy S4 as well as the iPhone 5 here as one of the best phones of early 2013. However, despite having good specs, a dual speaker layout, and good build quality, unfortunately, there are several hurdles of the HTC One that actually led to HTC's downfall, one of which is actually lackluster marketing, according to ColdFusion, some quality issues, especially in the software, and QC issues, and of course the specs. Now, despite the fact this phone does have decent specs when compared to the S4, this phone does have a slower processing clock speed at 1.7 GHz versus 1.9 GHz on the S4. The screen size is a bit smaller than that of the S4, and instead of having LPDDR3 RAM found on the S4, this phone actually has DDR2 RAM. And of course, the battery capacity is actually smaller on this phone than that of the S4, and plus the S4 does have removable battery. Adding to the poor brand strategy, and you do have a domino effect which actually crippled HTC's growth and actually sent HTC downwards a slow death. In 5 years, HTC had come from one of the biggest smartphone manufacturers, rivaling with Samsung and Apple, to essentially being nothing, which with the HTC U12. Now, the latest version of Android this phone could officially run is actually Android 5.1. This phone is currently running 5.0.2, but if you want an unofficial build, you could actually go on LineageOS and actually find out one of the unofficial builds. In fact, I actually saw LineageOS 18.1, aka Android 11, being run on this HTC One, if you want a more modern version. But still, LineageOS only officially supports Nougat for this phone, aka LineageOS 14.1 or Android 7.1. And this phone also uses HTC Sense over here. As you guys can see, this is what the UI actually looks like, and this UI is actually lauded for its intuitiveness as well as fastidiousness as well. As you guys can see, it is very tidy and organized. Kind of close to stock a bit, to be honest. And over here is how you actually multitask by double pressing the home button. The home button actually leads you to the home, of course. And there is also back button as well over here. Capacitive, of course. And let me show you guys that Google Play Store no longer works on this phone. So if I try to click this, it actually does nothing. Even skip does nothing, so I'm kind of stuck here, unfortunately, which means the Play Store officially does not work, which means you can no longer use the YouTube app anymore. And unfortunately, Google Maps is also crippled as well. Let me show you guys. Yes, here is the maps, and unfortunately, it will tell you guys to actually update, but the Play Store does not work, so you can't really do much anymore. But you can still use maps on like Chrome, of course, over here. And I would show the new name for the Gulf of Mexico. Yes, Gulf of America. Now, even though the Play Store no longer works, the design does age really well. As you guys can see, this phone is actually made of aluminium, just like that of the iPhone, instead of polycarbonate plastic or plastic. Over here is the iPhone. As you guys can see, premium materials throughout. And despite the fact many smartphones no longer use aluminium for their backs due to wireless charging, phones of like 2013 mostly use plastic, to be honest. Now, what did not age so well is actually where the charging port is positioned. As you guys can see, it is actually off-centered. Yes, off-centered compared to being at the center for the iPhones. and what's more is positioning the power button on the left rather than on the right. And of course the headphone jack is actually on the top, and over here are actually where the volume buttons actually are here. Now, even though this phone is an LTE phone, unfortunately there is no VO LTE support, kind of similar to the 5 and 5S, which means you could no longer call or even use data in the US, even though this is actually LTE. So this phone and the 5 and 5S and the S4 unfortunately actually goes into the dump with other 3G phones. All of these phones are actually affected in a 3G shutdown because they do not have VO LTE. However, these phones would be usable in Europe and Asia if European and Asian carriers still support 3G or even 2G. But why not? Let's test the internet, shall we? So I'm now in Chrome here, and why not? I'm actually going to search for google.com. Now it would actually show the fallback version, of course, and let's search for iPhone over here. And this is what the search actually looks like. Kind of a bit modern, but not too much. And images. Wow, it is still quite intuitive, even for a 12-year-old phone. Unfortunately, the internet is quite slow, to be honest, but why not? Let's load YouTube so I could show you guys the speaker test compared to the iPhone. So here is my channel. And let me show you guys one of my most recent videos, which is the Hanoi vlog. Okay guys, this is actually in full volume over here. Hello everybody, this is the iFun channel here. I'm currently at the Da Nang airport. I was actually supposed to fly to Hanoi at around 23:15. Now comparing it to the iPhone, which is also in full volume. Hello everybody, this is the iFun channel here. I'm currently at the Da Nang airport. I was actually supposed to fly to Hanoi at around 23:15. Unfortunately, despite the fact speakers on the HTC One are a bit quiet compared to the 15 Pro Max. In fact, the dual speakers are actually quite good, to be honest, especially at the time. And the reason for the dual speakers was because in 2011, HTC bought a majority stake in Beats for $300 million. And with this deal, HTC could actually incorporate Beats audio technology onto their phone, which meant that the amazing dual front-facing speakers, aka boom sounds, was actually incorporated. And of course, many phones of today, including the S25, the 16 series, aka iPhones, actually do have dual speakers. Okay guys, this is what the Apple side actually looks like. It still does work, to be honest. And it is semi-intuitive. Of course, over here is the Microsoft site. I'm not sure if it's just this phone. Yes, it is, because my laptop seems to be working well. Now over here is the Amazon site. You could actually buy some products over here. And now going on Facebook. Unfortunately, I'll be hit with a login wall, but let me show you guys what it actually looks like. Yes, unfortunately, you have to log in, but I do believe I could be able to browse some things. Now onto some local sites, harvard.edu over here, advanced, and why not, let's proceed. Unfortunately, cannot really load at all. Why not mit.edu, which actually does work over here, and could actually show the full website. Over here is boston.gov, which could actually fully load. And now cambridgemass.gov. Unfortunately, this site also does not work. Oh, it does work. Okay. Never mind. It actually does work. And lastly, mass.gov actually works as well. Over here. Now this phone has a 4.7-inch 1080p display, which actually produces a pixel density of 468 pixels per inch, better than that of many modern iPhones, and of course better than that of the 4-inch 5, which unfortunately has a pixel density of 326 pixels per inch. Yes, as you guys can see, this is actually size comparison, and you can actually see the difference. Now this phone comes in either 32 or 64 gigabytes of storage, and unfortunately outside of China and Japan you cannot get any micro SD expandable storage inside this HTC. So you're stuck with this much storage, unfortunately. But the good thing is, at $600 US, this phone does not have a 16 gigabyte storage capacity. Apple is quite egregious for having lower storage capacities, with this phone having a base storage of 16 gigabytes. And the 5C, like 2 years later, Apple actually introduced an 8 gigabyte variant. Yes, 8 gigabytes, which is pathetically low for 2014 standards. Now on to the processing power, as this phone does have a Qualcomm Snapdragon 600 APQ8064T, similar to that of the Galaxy S4. And the Qualcomm Snapdragon 600 is actually a quad-core processor clocked at 1.7 gigahertz, not 1.9, with an Adreno 320 GPU and about 2 gigabytes of DDR2 RAM instead of the more modern LPDDR3 standards used by the S4. And unfortunately, due to the fact this phone does not support the Play Store, I could not really download any Geekbench or Antutu, so I could not really extract any scores. So I would actually say this phone is kind of a bit slow to this date, but 12 years ago it would be reasonably fast. And the battery life is no slouch too, having a milliamp hour rating of 2300, which even though it is actually 300 lower than that of the S4, this HTC One does have a bigger battery capacity than that of the iPhone, which actually has a 1440 milliamp hour battery. Now this phone does have Bluetooth 4.0 support, as well as Wi-Fi 802.11 ABGN standards, similar to many phones at a time. And of course USB 2.0. And last up, let's move to the camera, because this is the shining point of this phone. This phone does have a 4 megapixel camera, not an 8 or 16 megapixel, just 4 megapixels, despite the fact many phones at this time have at least 8 megapixels or even more than that. Now this is actually an f2.0 aperture camera. Now the M8, which is actually the successor, actually includes a dual camera lens and is one of the first phones to actually include a dual camera lens. For this 4 megapixel lens, it actually includes optical image stabilization, flash, as well as autofocus over here. And the video, you could actually shoot 1080p video on both the rear as well as the front. And the front camera is actually a 2.1 megapixel camera. Okay guys, without further ado, let's test the camera. Okay guys, unfortunately the purple lens issue is a major issue on the HTC One. Unfortunately the selfie camera does not have an issue with this. Okay guys, here's in conclusion. This phone was quite a decent phone at the time, and it aged incredibly well with the aluminium design, non-removable battery, and of course dual speakers over here. However, this phone did mark the decline of HTC. That was because Samsung actually outcompeted HTC in several key areas such as specifications, as well as even software as well, and reliability, more importantly. And unfortunately, HTC's business strategy was not adept to make sure it actually survived in the 2010s. In fact, HTC started having a slow death until about 2018 when HTC was kind of done with the HTC U12. Now, aside from the pink camera issue, you could actually see on the camera test, this is definitely one of the best phones in 2013 with many pros such as the amazing camera, intuitive UI, dual speaker system, design and premium materials. But unfortunately, due to the fact this phone is quite old, it is not so usable, but you could actually use it as sort of a light internet browser, to be honest, just like some of the other phones. And fun fact, this phone does start at $600. So thank you guys for watching. Please give a big thumbs up, subscribe for more videos, and I'm gonna see you guys soon.